Do a roll call if you guys could. Just call out your names.
Tom Cooney.
John Regan.
Richard Riley.
Greg Lapine.
Al Gilbo.
So I'm going to appoint Tom Cooney and Greg Lapine. Actually, are you full-time now? No. So appointing them to the board for this evening. And so we do have a full quorum, which is good. Just a few things before we get started. I have, in terms of the agenda for this evening, we have 4 cases to hear. That's a little unusual. We usually don't have that many cases. Add to that the first couple of cases, at least, have multiple variances that are being sought. And the way this works is we have to hear each one of those individually and deliberate on each one of those individually, vote on each one of those individually. So it may take a little bit of time. I did have a chance to speak with Attorney Attorney
Morgan
Hollis, who's going to be representing the applicant in the case that's second on our agenda. It sounds like that one may go a little quick, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is the order I have these cases scheduled to appear before us tonight would be case number 2019-02. The applicant is Roderick Lafort. Owner of the property is BWSV LLC, location 273 Dairy Road, Litchfield, New Hampshire, map 2, lot 2. That's the case, and you're here. Roderick is here. What do you prefer to be called, Rocky?
Rocky.
All right. So I assume you would want to move forward with your case. And then Attorney Hollis is just outside, but I want to get to hear from him as well. He would be next on the agenda. Then I have a case number 2019-04, Denise Bernard. Is Denise here? Yes, you are. Okay. So the point I'm making is this is going to take a little while. So you're going to be here for a while. I think there's a good chance we'll get to you, especially since it sounds like Mr. Hollis, Attorney Hollis is not going to go through his entire case, and that's a big one. He's got about 5 variances. I think a 6th one that he's tacking onto it. But there is some discussion that he wants to have with the board, and there may be one vote that we'll take tonight. And then the other application that I have is 2019-03, Christine Barnett. Okay, you're here. So I have you last on the agenda, which I don't know exactly when we're going to get there. What I'm saying to you is you could, I'd like to give you the option if you didn't want to hang around to put a continuance until next month if you wanted to, especially where you're last on the list. Would mean you can't do anything between now and then.
Exactly. Contractors are already booked to start.
Yeah.
We've already pushed it back a couple of months, so I understand.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Then.
Did I get the right, my notice that I received said I was first on the agenda.
Yeah, so did mine.
Yeah, there was, so I was out when the public notice was created and then I put together the agenda. But the case numbers are assigned based on when they come in, and then the scheduling is done based on when those applications were received too. So I think if you were to take a look at it, which I did, I've got these listed in the order in which the applications were dated as received by this office. The office being the code office or the building office. So that's how the agenda got created. I know there was some confusion because it was published one way by someone else and then me by, so I'd like to stick with the schedule the way I've got it, basically, because that's the way I do it. It's first in, first out.
Can you check this? Yeah. One should be 4 and one should be 3.
I changed them. I know. Which one you got now?
That's the one that was her we were just talking about. You had her as case number 3 is really.
I have to stick with the number that was put in the newspaper. So
we got
she
two
is
threes.
technically correct. She is, you're correct. Her case number is 2019-03, but she's last on the agenda.
But
So the
there's,
case number
but there's
was
two,
signed by Troy while I was gone, and he did the public notice in the HLN.
Okay.
but it looks like on mine, I have two of the same case
Yeah,
numbers.
that's what he's saying. He has to go
So
with that.
Theodore is case number 2. I'm
Theodore,
sorry, 522 Charles Bancroft.
that's 2019. Technically, it's case number 2019-05.
Oh, fine.
That's the number that Troy assigned to it,
Okay,
but it's second on our agenda.
okay.
Then you'll move to 4, which is Denise Bernard. Then we'll move to 3, which is, I'm sorry. Well, yes.
But,
Yeah, then we'll move to 3, which is Christine.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
we'll get it done.
want to get started, if you would. I think if you wouldn't mind sitting up here, the mic will pick you up a little bit
Okay.
better, Rocky. And then let me just make sure I have whatever you gave me. So these are completed applications for this particular case. And if you would, just state your name and address.
Roderick Lafort,
Yep.
273 Derry Road, Litchfield, New Hampshire.
All right. And I'll just read this. You are, again, this is case number 2019-2. You seek a variance from LZO section 601.00 to permit a landscaping business to operate in the highway commercial district where it's not listed as a permitted use. You're also looking for a variance from LZO section 601.01 to permit multiple principal uses on the same parcel without subdivision. So that's what we're focused on. Go right ahead. You can dive right in. Actually, now that I think about it, so you've only got the one, right? Because there's actually 2 variances that you're requesting here. Well, let's see what we can do. Let's see what you got written down here. You have your own copy?
Yep.
All right. So you'll just have to work your way down the list.
Okay.
Right.
What's that?
You gonna explain what you gonna go through those, or you just gonna explain
Oh,
what you're
do you have
gonna do?
any drawings or anything? We have some drawings in here. right?
Yeah, there's just the map lot. That's really it.
Yeah, I'd just like to know where that is.
Why don't you describe where the property is located?
So the Lobster Boat Restaurant on 102, across from the 7-Eleven. We're down in back where Chappie's Auto Service used to be.
Oh, okay,
So the backfield area there.
okay, that's great.
This is across from 7-Eleven. The
Down.
lobster boat behind that.
Correct, behind that.
Yeah, we actually gave him a variance.
Yep.
A number of years ago.
Electrical?
No, the Chappie's. So you're replacing his business? Or?
So no, there's an auto service in there currently,
Okay.
Silver Arrow Auto Service. I am using a small back office there as well as the field, primarily for storage,
What are you storing there?
trailers, trucks.
Okay.
Another copy.
Sure.
No, we're okay.
You know.
All right. So, with respect to the landscape business, what do we got written down here? Variance will not be contrary to the public interest because, what you got?
There's an active and current business there, and it's in a commercial zone currently.
Yes. Keep going. What's the next one?
Yep, for the spirit of the ordinance is observed. Again, it's in a commercial zone and the town encourages business in the area. Substantial justice is done because by granting the variance, it will be done because it's a commercial use in a commercial zone. It's clean use and we don't store really any material on site. We're strictly using it for storage. The surrounding properties are not diminished because I currently park 3 to 4 trailers, 3 to 4 trucks in an open field. My main use is storage. We're in the process of clearing out the field, so it has a nicer appearance. It's kind of a little bit of a mess. It was a paintball field before, so we're kind of clearing it out. But we don't take any yard waste back there.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Yep.
So you're just renting the field?
The field, and I do have a 12 by 12 small, it's almost like a closet.
Separated from the car business?
It's in the same building
Do you go into the car business to go to your office?
through a separate door.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a locked door between us.
Okay. Thank you.
Where are we going with that?
No, I just wanted to know if it was, is it two separate businesses or is it really one, but?
Definitely very separate.
Okay.
And then for number 5, the proposed use is reasonable because it's unseen from the road. And again, our primary use is storage. We don't really do any work on site besides maybe fixing up my trucks. No material is on site and no yard waste or salt piles.
Oh, the technology.
So you store, do you have like loom and bark mulch or anything like that? Nothing, just the
Just my equipment.
vehicles?
Yep.
Interesting.
Well, so you were just, that kind of stuff, you're just going,
I just go and purchase it. I don't have
Right.
the ability
Yeah.
to stockpile that at this time.
so you got the dog kennel thing
Correct.
next to you and.
Yep.
And it's kind of hidden.
Very hidden.
Yeah.
It's right along the BAE fence in the back too. Their big field area. It's the same field.
Did you say you had researched this and looked at somebody, I thought somebody said that there's actually no place in our zoning ordinances does it mention landscaping business?
Not on the highway.
I'm good. I know
That's
the
correct.
property really
Oh,
well.
just on the highway.
Yeah.
I didn't have this one. I was.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
where are we? Substantial justice?
Oh.
Oh,
Oh,
you want your phone?
he wants his phone back.
I kind of like it.
We're Googling you. So help me. So if you orient this, I see the lobster boat. So I'm looking at the lobster boat.
Yep.
Okay. And Silver Arrow Service is off to my right in the back. That's what
Correct.
It says here. And there's a long building off to the left behind lobster boat, the building there.
That's on a separate lot.
That's on a separate lot.
Yeah.
It's like a house apartment building or something like that.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So where are you then? I guess where would you be on? Maybe you can show me.
Yeah.
I think we, John, I think we gave that,
You can,
business a right to have a sign out.
This area here.
Yeah.
Is where I park.
How did the
and where you said there's an office. It's in that.
did we give them a
That's it.
Half of that is mine.
Got it.
They were, I don't know, I have no idea.
because it would still be two businesses on the same lot.
Well, so what's
In
the
this
issue with
field.
the,
And half of
I don't
that
quite
bump out
understand
is
what-
his. So he's all
in
this
the
little area
landscape
here,
operate in the high?
right there.
So the ordinance doesn't allow landscape business.
Right. There's a whole list of permitted
Oh,
uses which we
okay.
can go through. I got the.
All right, so that's not.
The
And
existing
then-
building, that little bump out right.
Permit multiple
this one.
principal uses
Little
under,
dotted line.
okay, so there's two businesses.
Two businesses on the same parcel, which,
Okay,
which I believe is covered on 601, .01.
yeah. Okay,
Multiple principal uses. Two of them may be located by the minimum standards set forth in this ordinance are adhered to. Well, so that's what we're here to determine. So you were on number 3?
no, he did them all.
Yeah.
You do all of them?
Yep.
Surrounding property?
He did a good job, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I noticed on 601.00 permitted uses on Q, permitted uses includes agricultural uses, including agriculture, farm, worker dwelling, farm, roadside stand, storefront, accessory structures for agriculture use, agritourism, operation and maintenance of agricultural forestry vehicles and processing machinery and agricultural processing plants. That's the closest thing I found to
Yeah,
landscaping.
thinking about, the farmland on
How
3A.
old is that ordinance?
This one, can't really tell.
How can you possibly, I don't know why they.
Maybe
list-
91. 91, it looks like the permitted uses was originally.
Some of those didn't, some of those are probably written when there weren't such things as landscaping businesses,
I don't think so.
right? I mean, to the extent that they exist today anyway.
Sure.
So is it your intention just to use that lot for just storage?
At the current time, yeah. I just store all my equipment there because I can't store it all at my house.
That's not permitted either.
How do you even define a landscaping business? I mean, once
It's a business.
you approve it, then can he start storing bark mulch and?
Well, I was
dirt
thinking the
and all
same thing,
good
is that
stuff there?
what preclude, that would be a
Then you put
stipulation.
that
of the
in an
variance.
Yeah,
exception.
it'd be
Yeah.
it'd be a stipulation.
You put that
That's
in
what I
an
was
exception.
thinking.
So is that going to be an issue if we stipulated that you're just, know,
Not
it's-
at this time. I could
what do
always.
you mean not at this time? Because we
So-
put that in there, then there's no use. That's it.
Sure, sure.
Come back.
I would assume I would have to come back if I ever had future plans to put material back there.
Okay.
But at the current time, I don't have those plans.
You can see.
Are there any, I didn't go through your whole file. Are there any letters from your butters or neighbors or anything
No.
in favor or against? No,
Nope.
I don't think there's anything against in there.
I'm gonna butter actually, and I'm okay. I'm right next door to you.
Oh, okay.
Please, I need your name and
Can you
address
state-
now.
Denise Bernard,
Denise Bernard,
271 Dairy Road.
271 Dairy Road.
Yeah.
Basically speaks in favor of the applicant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
There you go. So if he's thinking, well, do you want to put a stipulation in there?
I think
If
we
he's
should.
thinking that,
Yeah.
not right now,
I think that's a good idea.
but put that in there or not? put
Yeah.
it in there?
And then if he decides to,
Well, we want to kind of limit what's can be added there. So.
But one of the questions I have for you before we talk about a stipulation is, this was a two-pronged application.
Yeah.
The second being 601.01. And if you read that, I don't know if you guys got it in front of you.
No.
Multiple principal uses. Two or
Yeah.
more principal uses may be located on the same parcel without subdivision, provided that the minimum standards set forth in this ordinance are adhered to. So the question I have is, if we were to give him the variance on the first half, the first part, doesn't it automatically say it's allowed now because he meets all the other requirements? So he would be okay with 601.01?
Well, we're allowing an unlisted business is what the first one is about. So we're saying, okay, you can do a landscape business, and we ought to update the ordinance to add that one in there. And then the other thing is the idea of you got two businesses on one pro.
Did I miss it? What were the two businesses again? I missed it.
one's a car service.
That's what's in the building today.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's got a 10 by 10. Basically, he's got a sign up on the street too, so it's clearly a separate business.
It's not owned, the other one's not owned by you. You're
No.
just the landscaping guy.
Correct.
Right. And according to the ordinance,
Do you own your piece of that property?
I do not own.
How can he get a variance on something he doesn't own?
He's
well, it
representing.
would still go. He's applying. The owner of the property is listed.
So BWSV is not you.
No.
Right.
What do, I hate to put a wrench in this, but how do we know that they agree?
He's,
They provide an
he
affidavit?
signed.
Okay,
Yeah, he signed as the owner in the application.
okay,
He listed as the owner and they did sign it.
okay.
I don't know if I didn't think they needed to do a letter
So no, he's
saying that
he's just representing. You're essentially representing the owner. And the owner, if the owner signed the application, then you're just
I
representing.
think we've had that.
Yeah.
We've had that
Yeah.
situation in the past, I believe.
Well, I think the last one
Yeah.
was a
The owner
situation.
wasn't here, but the applicant was.
Yeah.
That's what I think it was too.
I'm done. Do you want to stipulate? Did you want to stipulate something?
I think we should.
Make a motion.
Go ahead, Greg.
Well,
Is there any more deliberation? Actually, I need to have some public input anyways.
Yeah, go ahead.
Any more questions before I open it public? This time I'll open it up to public input, see if there's any public input. People want to speak in favor or oppose. I've already gotten you. Okay, so we have no other public input. I need a motion to close public input.
Well, I'll move that we close public input.
Second.
All right, so
All right.
now, if there's no
Aye.
further deliberation, if somebody wants to make a motion in favor or opposed.
I make
Al,
it.
why don't you make it? You,
No.
Al.
I think I'd like to make a motion to approve the 601 permit for a landscaping business to operate in the highway commercial district. But I'd actually like to put some stipulations on the property where we could not store any salts, bark mulch, looms, or landscape materials at this time.
Does that exclude pavers?
Pavers.
Pavers.
Pavers,
Yeah.
so I run into having some extra from a job. I'll keep them on site. It's usually less than 4 pallets at a time.
See, that's what I was. So,
Yeah, that would include that.
yeah, so,
That's storage of material then.
Building materials.
Yeah.
Getting that.
so,
If you decided you wanted to come back in the future, if you decide you want to put,
well, what,
could.
You're storing that kind of stuff there today is what you're telling me.
Correct.
so you can request, I would,
Yeah.
I think you should request it, or how do we limit?
You could, I
So
mean,
can I ask something? So he's storing trucks there today,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
right?
but they're empty trucks with no material in them.
And
Well,
what's,
there might be material in the truck,
But you're leaving with
but
it.
we leave to
Yeah.
take it on site.
and do we want to, maybe this is, I guess, between us now, that,
Yep.
do we want to add this to, limit the volume of materials as
We could do
opposed to no materials?
No, we could do that.
You know, that then how do you
I just don't want to.
distinguish?
So
You know,
I think my
magnitude of-
purpose of the stipulations would be because I don't want to drive by on Route 102 and see bark mulch piles sticking up
Yeah.
as high as the building.
So, yeah, right.
Yeah, and salt tents and everything else going up.
Nor do you want to see 100 10-foot piles,
Exactly.
right? That you
Yep.
can't see, but you know,
Agreed.
they might exist. So how do we limit, how would we limit that?
I'm not sure it's a viable landscape business without the ability to store that kind of
Yeah.
material, to tell you the
Yeah,
truth.
well,
I mean, you see it down on 3A. Who's down there? Who's down there?
Right, and Hudson.
Tim's,
Yeah.
Tim's up here, he's got
Yeah.
all kinds of piles of stuff. But
Tim's in a different,
he's actually
Yeah.
supplying, he doesn't do the landscaping
How
necessarily.
long have you been in there, in that spot?
2.5 years.
How would you quantify volume of storage that you
So-
might need there?
I do not have the need for bays of storage like you see at Tim's or Tamarack, anywhere like that. I don't need bays of 50 yards of mulch. What I end up putting back there is a half yard of mulch that gets left over from a job. We use it on the next job. So stuff comes in, but it's really minimal. The piles are smaller than half of a small pickup.
So,
You know.
so how about with the stipulation limiting storage to
10 yards.
5 piles?
I don't know about that.
No, but
I
go
know.
from that, build
Something
upon
like that, yeah,
Could
I'm
you
trying to
word it?
think of the words.
Because, you know, you're not going to measure pavers in yards. You know, you're going to measure them in pallets
Minimum.
Or square footage.
or square foot, you know, or cubic feet, maybe cubic feet. Because you could do that in
Right,
pavers
all of it.
roughly, right? You know,
We said like minimal, but what's minimal?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you might have to say the primary purpose, or primary use of the parcel or the land is for parking
Trucks.
of equipment, trucks and equipment.
And
That's the primary purpose, and
And,
you know, any storage of material is to be kept at a minimal and is secondary or something like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, we could actually do this. We could stipulate it to, no cubic yard material. But we could stipulate that you could store hardscapes.
Oh, wait a minute. That would be like bulk sale of, maybe you just say no, for not for bulk.
Not for bulk sale, no,
Bulk
and
sale or storage of.
and
of
just
those kind
store hardscapes.
That would be
of- something like
fine.
that.
Storage of hardscapes is like,
I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to maintain the value of the surrounding
Yeah,
properties. You don't want to
yes.
see this thing, if it's not there today, you're saying, let's approve
Yeah.
what we see there, but not allow it to grow to something that's
Yeah.
like what we have down on 3A.
and I don't want to limit him to no growth.
Yeah.
But, you know, if it became a situation where he wanted to sell bark mulch or something down the road, he could always come back and
Yeah.
we could look at
Does he
that.
still have to go to the planning board after this? You think?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Be done after that. Okay, so there's no
All right,
stipulation.
so can we get a stipulation then?
So Al, would you say a quantity not to exceed a certain size or?
You
I think,
I've had the words there, so
I think I'm going to make a motion to add to the variance,
a stipulation. yeah.
a stipulation to add to the variance that we allow him to carry up to 10 pallets of hardscape products.
So we have a motion to grant the variance to section 601.00 to permit a landscaping business to operate in the highway commercial district where it's not listed as a permitted use, with the stipulation that only hardscape materials
Yeah,
be stored on
storage
site?
of hardscape materials on site. Because I think it's not really considered storage if he comes in and he dumps, a yard or two of bark mulch out of his dump truck, then the next day or two, it goes to another job site,
And loads of.
as long as it doesn't become
Temporary thing.
storage.
Never long-term storage.
Yeah.
If something's there,
Long-term.
it's typically,
Oh, but if your focus is on that kind of material, then we don't even have to mention the hardscape. Just mention that there's no bulk distribution of.
Well, he wants to be able to store hardscape materials in pallets if he needs to.
not a lot. I mean,
No,
I'm not
honestly,
saying we're.
No,
we're
prohibiting
talking
it.
maybe
No, but-
3 to 4 pallets
Exactly.
at the most.
Yeah.
So that's
If we
why,
don't say anything about it, we're not prohibiting it. If we say something about the dirt and the bark mulch, at least then you're limiting it. So if you say no bulk sale and distribution.
How about stipulation disallowing retail or wholesale sales and allowing up to 10 pallets of hardscape materials on site?
perfect.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
You want to read
We're
that
gonna miss
back?
you, John.
You're going to be able to read that back?
I'm right. That's why I type it. Yeah.
So are we gonna have a separate motion for the next one?
Yes, I think we're going to have a second motion for the second one, but I don't think he needs to present anything more on that based on what I'm reading.
No, it's the same thing. It's a-
Did John amend the motion?
Well, we just settled on the final wording. He's going to reread it to what it is.
So Al's motion is,
Okay. I got you.
and maybe let me read it first. Motion to grant the variance as written, as written.
Yep.
With the stipulation to disallow any retail or wholesale sales, and allowing up to 10 pallets of hardscape materials on site.
Got it.
Is that okay, Al?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion.
And this is for which one? This is 600.00? Oh,
Yes, 601.00.
I'll second the motion.
So it's seconded by Greg. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, so that takes care of the landscape use in that particular zone. Now, the second part of this is multiple principal uses. And again, we've explained because essentially there's already a business on that property. And 601 stipulates it. I'll reread it again. 2 or more principal uses may be located on the same parcel without subdivision, provided that the minimum standards set forth in this ordinance are adhered to. So essentially, all those other requirements in terms of dimensional requirements should be met. We've just granted the variance to allow the use.
Yeah.
Permit the use.
Minimal. I mean, why are we even voting on this if he meets all these things?
Just because it's technically, it would still be in violation of this.
Why?
This would be kind of, I can't speak to as to how that was written, why it was written this way, but I interpret this as the same type of permitted use by special exception. This is basically saying 2 or more principal uses may be located on the same parcel without subdivision, provided that
Yeah.
minimum standards. So our question now is, does he meet the minimum standards?
Well,
And there's only a few standards that are outlined in
well,
here.
if he meets all that, then it says in here he doesn't have to ask for a variance.
I know,
Yeah.
but he technically didn't meet it until we gave him the variance on just to even allow the use in there.
So it's the
Okay,
variance
So
that makes.
so they had to get that first.
Yeah.
And then he still has to come and get this, even though it says it's a permitted use. Well, yeah, you're right. If he meets all the other standards, technically he wouldn't have had to come.
Well, do you want a motion just to?
I think we need the motion, yeah.
All right, I'll make the motion that we grant a variance to LZO section 601.01 to permit multiple principal uses on the same parcel without subdivision.
And, yeah, seconded by John. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the motion carried 5-0 on that, 5-0 on that too. I guess you're all set.
All right.
I have to put a letter together, and get that sent out, which you'll get in the mail. Another copy goes in the file. But as long as nobody challenges it in the next 30 days.
I would say you're allowed to have a business there, seeing you've been there 2 years, but if somebody challenges you.
Yep.
Grandfathers.
All right. Thank you, guys.
So thank you.
All right.
So we're doing Christine Barnett.
No, we're 2019-05.
Oh, okay. Go to the end of the pile.
Yep, go to the end of the pile. Now.
Oh, this is the gas station one.
It's a long one,
Yeah.
and there's been a few other developments, I believe, since then as well.
You know, there's a hockey game on tonight, right?
Let me see if I can
Ken's
find your
Friday.
folder before we go too
Go
much
on.
further.
Go on, you get your moment.
You can throw it up on the big screen.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we get a lot done.
I'm trying to find out which folder they gave us for this particular case.
What's this one?
That's the one I just finished.
Went through that before.
Yep, that's good. Get it out of my way, I guess. I think this might be. I don't think that one's that one either. They don't label these. I label them.
Yeah, find that guy.
Can you figure out what case that is? I'm still having trouble with that one. All right, this appears to be this one. I think that's that one. Is that,
This is 03.
okay, good. Different one.
Well, it's listed as 1903.
Oh, it's all
Yeah,
five.
all right, that's fine.
Right.
Yes.
Three on here is
Yeah.
Thoreau, isn't it?
Yeah, no, just on the agenda it was Thoreau, but that's wrong.
This is wrong.
Yeah,
This is the
the
packet
old
they gave us.
agenda, yes, that's wrong.
Okay.
That was before I found out how he had actually listed them and wrote them. So, we have case number 2019-05. The applicant is Thoreau Properties LLC. That is also the owner of the property. The location is 522 Charles Bancroft Highway, Litchfield, New Hampshire, map 22, lot 11. They're seeking multiple variances. There's 5, well, actually, there's variance from, I'll read them. Article 800, Section 801, to permit the use of a storage facility where such use is not listed as a permitted use. Also seeks a variance from Section 1250, Article 1253, to permit a storage facility in the Aquifer Protection District. Number 3, a special exception from Section 1208 to permit a stormwater retention pond, in quotes, water impoundment facility in the Wetlands Conservation District. Number 4, special exception from Section 803A to permit the use of a gas station. And number 5, variance from Article 800, Section 803.001-4 to permit a gas station with frontage along Route 3A of 395.5 feet, where 500 feet frontage is required. Those are the 5 that we had in front of us at the time we went public with this and got everything on the schedule. My understanding, and Attorney Hollis, if you can just update us, I think there's been some changes, maybe an addition, something like that on there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, my name is Morgan Hollis. I'm an attorney with Gottesman and Hollis in Nashua, and I'm here representing the applicant, Thoreau Properties LLC, as well as the owner, Thoreau Development LLC. In answer to your question, what has developed over the last week really is first question that was asked me was by Troy Brown was, would you try to explain why this is different from the 2012 application? As I was going through the process of preparing that letter, I realized that despite everyone's best efforts to determine what we needed for variances and special exceptions on this site, we all collectively missed one, and that is, as I'll explain the application later, it's going to be an above-ground storage tank, fuel tanks, piping to above-ground dispensers at the gas station, but there's an underground pipe that connects the two. And under your ordinance, you need a variance to have underground fuel piping. And rather than get into a debate whether that line is what the definition was intended to be, we have applied for an additional variance to allow the underground piping, just the piping between the above-ground storage tank and the above-ground dispenser. That obviously hasn't been advertised, so it's not before you. It would have to come at the next meeting when it gets posted and advertised. But
clearly you wouldn't need that unless you get all these.
That's correct. Yeah. As I explained to the chairman before the meeting started, and I wrote a letter to the chairman, the question of whether or not the application is substantially or materially different than in 2012 is a question that you all have to decide. And you may have decided it already in your own mind, but I explained I'd like to at least present why we think it's materially different and why we're back here. My client came to see me well over a year ago and said, we went to the zoning board in 2012 and we got denied. We only went for the gasoline because we had an underground tank. The zoning board denied it. And that's when we began to explore what else could you use the property for and what else has changed over there. And in fact, there are 2 material changes, which I'd like to present to differentiate this application from 2012. Yes, we're going to essentially present to you a gasoline station with a convenience store. And at some future date, if we get those, and there may be a drive-through, we're not asking for that tonight. But in the rear, we're presenting an application for permit to put storage, and you'll hear me make that case if we go forward tonight. But those would be self-storage facilities. But the real material differences are what was proposed in 2012 was underground storage tanks. And the concern of the board, obviously, and the Litchfield Conservation Commission was those tanks, if there's a leak or a rupture, and no matter what you say, there's a problem, it could go into the aquifer, and that's the aquifer that feeds everybody's wells. So there's a problem here. Since that time, of course, there's been some technological advances, and one of those advances is they do a lot more with above ground storage tanks. They call them vaults in some cases. And so we hired a consultant. He's here this evening. Mike is here, and he's going to present what that tank is about, what it means, and how it differs from underground storage tanks, why it's safer, and why it doesn't impact the aquifer. We think that's a major substantial difference from the last application. That's something you'll have to decide after you hear. The second difference is, of course, a difference in circumstances, which we feel does affect the application and your consideration of it. And the circumstances, as unfortunately you all know, there's a thing called PFAS or PFOA or PFOS. There are various titles. PFAS, as I understand it, is the chemical grouping in which PFOAs exist, and unfortunately Saint-Gobain and other sources perhaps. There's some pollution out there, and as you all know, the wells in that area are no longer used for drinking. And fortunately, Pennachuck Water has municipal water, so that how does this make it materially different? Well, before there might have been a critical sensitivity to a spill. If you dropped 1,000 gallons out of your tank into the aquifer, people would worry about polluting all the wells that service that aquifer. When there are no drinking water wells off of that, and there aren't going to be any, you're talking about a completely different concern and a different way to view it, and less critical. And perhaps the intent of the ordinance becomes less critical. That is an absolute prohibition. Maybe you have to evaluate how is the containment and how good is that containment. So that evaluation would be different than in 2012. Those are the 2 points that I think make this a materially different application and materially different circumstances affecting the application. Those are the 2 criteria under Fisher v. Dover. So if I might, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask Mike to elaborate on the differences in his professional opinion about an above ground tank and a above ground and underground tanks, and why above is better and why they're so substantially different than underground, if that's all right.
Yeah, please, if you can come forward. But while you're doing that, I got a couple more questions for you.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, 801 is where we're going through the permitted uses. Well, so section 800 is a northern commercial district. 803 has a special exception that you're looking for the gas station. And I think that 803, that whole thing was inserted, which includes gas stations. So it essentially says gasoline sales is permitted within the northern commercial zone, provided you meet criteria 1 through
That's correct.
6. I think that came into play after 2012. So that's a pretty big difference as well.
Yeah, 2014, I think, was
March
when it
11th.
was passed. So that's a substantial change in the ordinance as
Yes.
well. So part of my point is gas stations are permitted use, provided they have above ground. And so I think not only has the ordinance changed, but our application has changed to meet that ordinance.
Okay.
So we think there are those 3 criteria. I don't like to harp on a change in the ordinance as the only change, because there is a case that says if it's just the change in the ordinance, that may not be enough. So I think combined with the ordinance change, which you all recognize, and what we're about to tell you about above ground versus underground, we think it's almost a whole different application.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of asking these questions. In terms of the plan, I know we talked about the drive-through. It's not on the current plan. I don't know if you're comfortable with us using that plan for basically hearing this case, but to me, that's also a difference. You've actually modified the plan, not just the tanks, but even some of the drive-through service is gone and so forth and so on. I don't know if we need you to go into a lot more detail about the tanks at this particular time, if all we're here to do is to talk about whether this is okay to hear again, you know?
That's
I do want to ask you a question though, in terms of separating storage facility from gasoline sales. I know when you were here in 2012, or when the applicant was here in 2012, at that time, I know the question was brought up, if you didn't get the gasoline sales, are you considering still moving forward with the convenience store? And the answer was yes. But then as soon as the gasoline sales fell through, they didn't want to move forward with anything else. Because we addressed the gasoline sales first, and
Yes.
that didn't pass.
That's
So they
correct.
wanted to hold off on everything else. So is this one of these things where it's got to be all or nothing, or are you looking to hear this stuff really, take everything separately?
Well, there are two separate uses, really. Convenience store, gas station in the front, storage facility in the back.
Uh-huh.
Storage facility may still be a viable use. We need to get the special exceptions and permits and variances for that. And that may or may not be viable, and the front may be used for something different if you didn't give a variance. That's different than it was in 2012, where it was an all-in because there was no planned use for the back.
Right.
I'm not saying we would necessarily, if you denied the gas station use, that would mean an automatic withdrawal. No, I think we'd probably still want to go.
Okay, and the reason why I ask, because that's good, because then it makes me a little more comfortable just addressing the question of hearing the gasoline sales again,
Yeah.
I had a train of thought. I don't want to lose it. The what do you call it? Retention pond?
Yes.
Is that tied to the storage facility, the gas
Storage
station, or
facility
both?
only.
Only.
Storage facility only.
Okay.
The gas
And I don't
station,
know if we'll get into that here
Yeah.
tonight, but that was one of the questions that I had, because as we kind of get into that particular relief you seek, it's like we're talking about a pond, but it's a pond that's there for some other use. So my thinking is we kind of have to tie that use in as we address that.
that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it only services the back portion because there's a break in the drainage. The gasoline drains to the front and the side, and the rear portion drains to the rear.
Okay.
So stormwater drainage in that basin is only based upon development of the backside.
Any questions from you guys? Let me just make sure, because I had a few notes. One thing I wanted to point out to you with regard to the stormwater facility, and this is tied to the variance number 2, which that's the storage facility in the Aquifer Protection District. As we look at 1253, it gives us a whole list of prohibited uses on 1254. It says we also have to look at 1254. Right? So permitted uses is under 1253. Then it says with the exception of those expressly prohibited in 1254. So my belief is if you're looking for relief from 1253, we also have to look at 1254 to make sure you're not in any of the prohibited uses. And it does say the siting or operation of a wastewater or septage lagoon. So I don't know if it's either one of those
It
two
is not
things. Okay.
It's not either one of those.
It's
It's
just standing water.
strictly stormwater runoff. Yeah.
And covering of more than 15% of the lot?
No.
None of that?
No.
Okay.
Mosquito control.
Is that what that's for?
Yeah.
It's gotta be.
So is your primary objective, at least for this evening, to be productive, is to understand whether this board is going to accept hearing a gas station again on this lot?
That's the primary goal here. And we have these essentially five variances and special exceptions. And I have opinion on value that I would submit. I have a report from a wetland scientist that I'm going to submit on the detention basin, that it's not going to affect the flora and the fauna and the migration. So I have those reports I could submit once you open the hearing, and then everybody would have them, so they don't have to read. I think it's going to take some time to go through it. So it's your call. We're ready to go if you
I
want
have
us
some
to
time.
go.
I actually have some questions that I may even want to throw towards our legal counsel as I mentioned to you before the meeting as well. And I wasn't quite sure how to go about doing that. I now understand after talking to you that we as a board can do this confidentially via written correspondence with legal counsel if we capture any questions we may have. I mean, I've asked most of my questions here, but there are still some additional questions that I have, which frankly, I'm going to wind up, I could ask you, but I'm going to wind up asking our legal counsel on anyways. And it has to do with, you know, how we've got this broken down. For example, you know, I mentioned the fact that, you know, 1253 ties into 1254, but then as I weigh some of these things, we'd be making on variance number 2, we're making a decision on the Aquifer Protection District. And then variance number 3, we're looking at, is this the Wetlands Conservation District? So it's like, once you decide one, it almost seems like by default, you're deciding the other, but I don't know that for sure because there's different criteria in the other. But there's still, one sits on top of the, I mean,
Very similar.
the Aquifer Protection District sits in the Wetlands Protection District. So I really want a legal opinion that helps guide me through this personally, and hopefully guides the board through this
I agree.
as we go through this.
And whether you want that before or after you hear the presentation is your call.
Well, I would like to try to do it in a way that is as expedient as possible for you guys. So if I could, you know, use the time between now and next month where we already have to publish something again.
You have a new application.
No,
It makes sense to hear that. Although, as you say, you know, it's common sense. If we don't get the first 5 we're asking for, we don't need a pipeline.
Right.
So, in some respects, we're here, we're ready to go. We'll be happy to present. It is going to take some time just because of the sheer number. I have to go through all 5 criteria of all the variances, and then I have to touch the special exceptions. But we're ready to go if you want us to go. And if then you want to say, well, thank you for the testimony, we'll just table it. We won't ask questions. We won't have any conversation. And then we'll be back here next month and get to hear another one.
I'm leaning on the latter. However, personally, I'd be comfortable addressing the question of whether, you know, we're going to allow discussion on a gas station on the same lot.
I think that makes sense to do that at least, so that we don't all waste our time.
No, exactly. And in my experience, again, I'm speaking just for myself, it's been a good policy for us to err on the side of caution, hear cases when there's, you know, enough reason to do that, you know, rehear it. In this case, I've heard some pretty substantial, there's been changes to the ordinances, making it actually a permitted use. There's changes to the plan. There are a couple of significant changes to the plan, in my opinion, as well. So that, to me.
And the condition of the property, given the aquifer.
Well, I would want, just to put you on notice, I'm going to be interested in some written testimony on that. Like I don't know is somebody saying in 10 years, those aquifers are going to clean up itself. I want some expert testimony on really, before somebody tells me, hey, that's no longer a viable aquifer, I need expert testimony on something like that, just so you know. And I don't know if the state's done that or who's done that, but I personally would be looking for
And the
something.
fact that you have a little pollution in there, you're going to add more to it. I don't know if that's.
I know.
that's-
Yeah,
I agree with you on that one.
There's a lot of things there that, but I don't want to hear the case right now.
Yeah,
I
but
don't think we need to.
the other pieces, I think I agree with you on the fact that the ordinance itself has changed.
Yeah.
So we can go ahead with the hearing the case. So
I'm thinking we do we do a motion on the question of whether we're going to rehear an application for the gas station, which essentially is, I think it's the last 2 variances on the current list, which we can reference in the motion. But basically it's a motion to just allow the gas station to be heard again. And then probably another motion after that to postpone the rest of this case to give me time to figure out a letter to our attorney. And then I'm going to try to collect any questions that you guys might have before we do that. And I can throw that out the board.
Can I ask who was here for the other case?
I was here.
Were you?
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, I was here.
I think I was here.
Laura was here.
I remember the gas station.
Well, I don't know what you-
So how's that sound to you guys, if we do that?
That sounds fine. If
I mean, I know you're here and I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
If I
but-
can submit the reports I have this evening, then that'll help you as well.
Yeah, that would be terrific.
Okay.
Yeah. Both of those files are mine?
Well, I have copies of several reports. No.
Yeah, and, I know that the Conservation Committee has an interest in this case. I thought they were going to be here this evening. I
Have
don't
they-
think we have anybody from Con here, right?
They did meet and I don't know if they sent a letter, but they did send us a letter that said they had no objection to it.
Did they?
Wow.
Yeah, they took a vote. We met, they took a vote. They were satisfied with, we met several times and went through all the details of what we were going to do and how it was going to
Yeah,
be done and how it protected the
That's
aquifer.
changed.
That's good.
And so that's a pretty substantial
Yes.
difference from the last
They
time.
were not.
They were not in favor of it.
Just
We
so-
wouldn't be here if we didn't get them on our
Okay,
side.
yeah.
Just so you know, I want to say it's 12. Yeah, is it variance number 3? Is that the one from
1208 is
Well-
the stormwater.
1208? The variance, there's a stipulation in there that says that you have to send out a copy of the design and application to planning and conservation.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've gotten that over to planning yet. My only concern is if you don't have a valid plan, I don't know what they're gonna tell you if they look at it, but I just would ask that if you haven't done that, to do so. And they'll tell you whether they like what you got or not. But at least then I know that if they show up, they show up. If they don't show up, they've been notified and they have the opportunity to show up. All right, so I have a motion, or I'm gonna ask for a motion to,
Here, item 4 and 5.
No, just, what do you want to refer to it as, a case?
I think you want to have a motion that says Fisher v. Dover doesn't apply, because that's really the criteria.
what's it called?
Fisher versus Dover.
Oh,
That's the law case. And that's what prohibits you from hearing a
oh,
case unless it's materially.
it changed, yeah.
I think basically we're saying it is
Well,
materially
yeah,
different.
so I'm gonna make a motion that acknowledges that we have sufficient material changes to both the plan to put a gas station on this particular lot, as well as a change in the ordinance which allows gasoline sales in this particular district, provided they meet certain criteria. Based on those changes, I'm going to say that that this board should
Hear the case.
hear the case for gasoline sales, the new case for this new application. So that's my motion.
I'll
All
second
those in favor? Give me a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the motion carries 5-0. So that's good. We got that out of the way, which is good. That's one of the pieces I wanted to make sure we got out of the way too. So I think that's a big one. The next thing I would say is I'd like a motion we will accept any additional documentation that Attorney Hollis has on the applicant's behalf.
Why do
What's that?
we need that?
I'm just going to put it in the file
No, why do we need a motion?
to continue this.
Oh, to continue the case.
Yeah, we're going to
until-
continue this until next month and allow me to draft something with input from the board
Well, just
for a,
Council.
make it
for,
simple
yeah.
for us, you're making a motion to continue the case till next month? Oh, we haven't even opened it, but,
yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to open it first.
Yeah. you have to open the case to be able to continue it.
I did open it.
Okay, so we'll continue the case till next month for further information from the town attorney and other sources.
Yeah. And I'm also gonna have to add in one more, but I've got to review it, so I can't even add that to the motion. I gotta review it, make sure it works.
Why don't we get a separate thing?
So we've got a motion essentially to continue this case until, what's the date next?
June 12th today.
No,
What's
next
gonna
month.
be in,
Got it, I got it, I
Next
got it.
month.
It's gonna be the
Oh.
second Wednesday is July 10th.
All right, so a motion to continue this case, 2019-03.
Five.
No, it's 03, isn't it? Oh, it's 05.
Yeah.
2019-05 until July 10th at 7 PM. In the meantime, I am going to, I have authority, approval by the board to contact our attorney.
Yeah,
With some
for further-
questions.
Further information.
All right?
Yep.
So that's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, so we're going to postpone it.
You know,
I appreciate you guys working with us on that too.
thank you. Would you like me to pass out a copy to each member, or do you want one copy?
No, just one copy and save your other copies for now. if you
I'll
wouldn't
save them
mind.
for when we come back.
But just the copies of anything new, and I believe this is
Yes.
going to be the folder that's going to grow for you. And I think this is probably the letters you were referring to, hot off the press. 22/11.
Just one is all you need. Don't need a second copy for.
I think we're okay for the time being. These are, so I do have, just so you know, I have something else from the Litchfield Conservation Commission. We're addressing item number 3 on the above case. We understand they are seeking a special exception in the Wetland Conservation District. Unfortunately, we do not know the amount of square footage impact the applicant is seeking, therefore, we have no comment at this time, just so you know. That's on number 3. I think that's to your plan.
It's the
Retention.
Retention basin,
Yeah.
yeah. We haven't formally designed it yet. So we show in the area on the plan about what it's going to be.
So how would we vote on that? If,
Well, they got the next month to figure it out.
I hope so.
We'll give an estimate to the Concom. We have to go back there for this other variance, so. We'll
Yeah, it would be nice if we had like a not to exceed
Yeah.
kind of number, because then we have something to sink our teeth into. So, just back over that.
Pardon me?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Sorry you didn't get to do your presentation. Next time you will, though. Great, all right. Don't tell me anything about the Bruins, no spoilers.
Mark, did it start?
They're just starting.
Good.
All right, we'll make it quick then.
Yeah.
Sorry, I bet you were afraid I was gonna go.
Please.
There's no more.
See in the corner of your.
Waiting for third, July.
You're in town.
More cases in July. Just gotta take
We'll
one.
see you.
and I gotta.
Thank you again.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Nice to see you again, Morgan.
So, in July, would we have to have the same board?
I don't think
No, because we
so.
haven't heard anything. We haven't heard the
No.
case at all.
Right.
Good, because you're not gonna be here.
No, no, I'm just wondering, like, because if Laura comes and Laura's like,
Oh, it's but it's,
Oh, she'll wanna come.
it's a crapshoot either way. We're not really supposed to have anything in advance to study anyway.
Yeah.
So, 2019-04, this should be Denise Bernard and Van Tenex Inc. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Let me make sure I got the right folder for you, because.
Yeah.
I think that's this one then. Or is it?
Are you right next door to?
Yeah,
Landscapes?
to Rocky.
And the,
We're
are you in like the brown building?
No, the blue one, it was right on
Re-sided?
the road. It was just refurbished about 2 years
Was
ago.
it the daycare before?
It was probably like 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
And then the previous owner, he bought it. He redid it, the inside of it and the outside. He did everything. He did a beautiful job. And then he was going to put his business there.
Yeah.
And then he decided not to. Well, you guys probably know this, but
He was from the bus company, right? Or
I don't know. He does something with the in the iron business. He does. He makes iron structures, as far as
Okay.
I know, like stuff for bridges. And
so you're in
spans.
front of the.
Birds and feathers or
Yes.
something. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Commercial and residential.
Right on the road, right on the main road.
601. It's brick, right? Is it brick? Has a couple of columns in front?
There's
It's
in the
sitting
front
sideways to that?
door, but it's sideways. Yeah.
It's got the handicap ramps on it.
Yeah. He built this really nice handicap ramp in there.
271 Dairy Road, that's it. All right. So this has to go with this. All right, so 2019-04, name of the applicant Denise Bernard, Van Tenek Inc. Owner of the property, Van Tenek Inc., Van DeWald, location 271 Dairy Road, Litchfield, map 2, lot 47. The applicant seeks a variance from Article 601, Section P for a mixed-use commercial residential to allow 75% to be residential use. Does that sound right?
It does. I actually would prefer to have it 100% residential, I think. I feel like I might as well go all or nothing. And the reason is that we're having a really hard time renting it for office space. But we've had it for over a year. And we have it listed below market and we can't rent it. It just
601.
doesn't seem, this is for office space in this area. Apparently it's not, there's not a big call for it because there's such a big, Londonderry, there's not enough. Nashua, there's a big influx of office space. So, yeah, we have it listed with a broker and he's not, I think he's had 2 showings. So,
Should have rented to this guy.
well, yeah, he wouldn't want to pay my rent probably because he just needs storage.
Yep.
Anyway,
So P, everyone said P?
No,
Yeah,
Commercial residential as follows. A maximum of 1 residential unit may be developed in conjunction with a commercial use. Residential unit shall be an accessory and subordinate to use for commercial purposes.
so you're looking at permitted uses.
Yeah.
These are all the permitted uses, goes through banks, and so forth, so forth.
Yep. Yeah, I was reading it at your use.
Yeah.
So are you thinking about turning this into a couple of apartments or?
well, it's already, it's already broken into 4 separate spaces. So we would just take those spaces and add a shower and a kitchen, basically. It's gonna be 4 residential apartments.
And you, okay,
so it's
so,
a 75%.
yeah, what's 75%?
Well, we were thinking that we were gonna leave 1 for business there, but in hindsight, I'm thinking we might as well just do the whole thing residential.
You can't change that at this
Yeah,
point.
you gotta, that's a new application
All right. Well,
because it's gotta get republished now. It's,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
you
true.
know.
Well,
So,
then just leave it as that. Let's see what we come up with, I guess. It's 75%. So
So a
25% is going to is for office and then
the other 3 units would be residential.
apartments, yeah.
And you know that you'll have to come back if you decide to,
Yeah.
100.
yeah. Okay.
So let me ask you, it's obviously not residential use now, or at least not legally anyways. This thing says residential uses shall be accessory and subordinate to the use of the lot for commercial purposes. I don't know how that could possibly be if you've got 75% of it as residential. This looks like it would be,
Well, that's
so
what's a
not only
variance.
would it be,
Well, it's a variance against all that stuff.
That's
Yeah.
why, because it doesn't allow, I think you can only, you have to live, one person can live there but run a business. I think that's what that means,
Yeah.
right?
Because it's in the highway commercial district,
right, exactly.
which by, it's basically trying to keep residentials out of that area. They figure that somebody might have have a business and they can live in their business facility, but we don't want apartment buildings there.
Mhm.
Do we have a clearer map of that district and
All the district.
Oh, front of the form here, maybe, right? Hang on.
For application. Just give you a folder.
Isn't there a map in the front of this thing? No.
because
Did you submit any drawings or maps or anything?
Yeah, I did. I have some in my book here if you want to look at what I have.
I believe
You got any
the,
drawings of the house?
I believe the next lot over is
Residential, that's
is
what
the
I was.
apartment house.
Is it behind me? Not next to
No,
me?
it's next the next lot over.
The boat?
Well, Irwin
company?
Marine is right next door.
No, on the other side of where we just gave a,
No, that's way over.
so,
This is the apartment here.
yeah, which is, so it's 2 lots away.
Yeah, so we got all that.
He's here.
You see it?
I'm sorry,
Doesn't
he's
show
here,
it,
yeah.
sorry. Let's get this.
So this would be 1 lot, and that's the next lot. That's an apartment building with
It's been
approximately
there for you. Yeah.
6 units in it.
This is the building in question? Is that what
Yeah,
that is?
that's it.
One of these is a floor plan?
Yes.
Just don't know, like, if it would meet, like, minimum frontage, or if there's any frontages or anything. That's the only one.
Did you see that? You got that too? No? This
What?
floor plan?
No, I didn't get it, no.
Okay.
Can I see that?
So it looks like there's 2 levels, 2 units on each level, I think is what she's saying.
Yeah.
Now, have you confirmed that you would meet all of the, what's it say in here? Minimum lot size, septic systems designed and sited, constructed to adequately handle all the waste from these residential units and all that good jazz?
Yeah, the only thing I haven't looked into was the first thing you said, the lot.
Lot
line, the
size.
Lot size, it's different for if it was residential?
It just says the minimum lot size has to be 1 acre. I don't know if you're sitting on an acre or not.
Am I sitting on an acre? Let's see.
I think it would be, for residential too, there's a frontage, isn't there? Would it be different?
Well, I'm just reading P, mixed use commercial residence,
Oh,
that follows. And it goes, says that the residential units shall be accessory and subordinate to the use of the lot for commercial purposes. That would fail, it would fail there. Minimum lot size shall be 1 acre. I don't know if it fails there or not. Septic systems
looking
must be
for the
designed,
text.
sited, and constructed adequately. All waste in a
Oh.
commercial use and a residential unit.
It's 0.44 acres.
It's 0.44, but, would it become, is the acreage, is the dwelling acreage different if you have multifamily?
As opposed to single
I
family.
don't know why you're asking me that though. I'm just going by what P says.
Well, because she doesn't meet the 1 acre requirement. And I didn't know if, multifamily or, yeah, multifamily.
Well, multifamily is not gonna be less than an acre.
Right. Well,
It would probably be more.
yeah, but if,
I'm just wondering if she needs more variances.
yeah, I think
That's
that's
why
what
I'm
I'm
asking.
getting, yeah, and I think that, like elderly, you could put 2 per.
Yeah.
2 per lot. I'm just trying to see if there's anything in there.
So who is that? So she must have gone to try to apply for this and
She worked for Troy on it, right?
Troy.
Yeah.
He came up, that's all.
No one came up, no one mentioned to me about the lot size, but everything else, like I spoke with the fire department, I spoke with, well, primarily him because I had things, and then my septic, I know I probably have to do some adjusting with that too. So, but that's all planning department stuff. But I kind of did all my numbers and stuff based on that information on what I would have to do in order to be up to code.
Almost sounds like this is the first step.
Is the lot compliant in the commercial, for a
Sure.
commercial lot?
It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's grandfathered.
Could be.
This is, no. Well, is this like a,
What would be considered multifamily
I
now?
can remember hearing a case about are you a new owner of this property? Do you remember hearing a case about a house where, was there a,
It wasn't that building. I actually know the
okay.
previous owner of that building from like.
When it was
I believe this
Daycare?
is the original file. It should have the whole history of everything if you want. That's what apparently they gave us
Was that?
for this lot.
That lot. Oh,
That's from the lot. I think this goes with my application. If you want to look at the historical stuff. I saw some
You
letters in
you
there
know what I'm
from-
talking about? I remember there
from
was
Lynch stuff.
somebody came and wanted a residence because they had people, the older family members living there, and they needed a variance to allow it to be a residence.
to a third party residence. Right now it becomes a rental property.
Well, do we want to continue to go through the criteria or do we think there's some issues with this application? And frankly, I don't know. I
Okay,
don't know
does it-
how,
Does Troy approve him before he gives it to the board?
he does his best, oh yeah.
Child care.
But it's not like we sit down and discuss everything ahead of time because
Yeah, I get it.
we're not supposed to have insight into this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it runs the risk of
The
people
child care
deciding
thing.
and talking
That's what it
and,
was
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a,
Is there a, I think I just seen a tax thing in there.
in here?
Yeah.
Bear with us for a minute. I think we're just trying to get comfortable with this one.
Sure.
The actual variance they're asking for. What are they specifically?
Did you read the ordinance?
Variance from article for mixed use to allow 75% to be residential.
So-
where
The minimum acreage in the highway commercial district is 1 acre.
Right.
For 300 feet of frontage, and that,
one unit
from what
of the many.
she says, right now, that lot is in compliance.
Well, it was approved for daycare,
Yeah.
right? So,
Back,
2012?
They're asking is this the
2012.
a separate variance for the square footage?
But it is under an acre.
well,
Well, it's that whole thing. So minimum lot size should be 1 acre. So that's a good point. It's not
It's not just the percentage, it's also the lot.
Right.
The lot's now in question
it's half
too.
as big as it, what's the
So that
square
would
feet?
technically be another variance.
So it's 0.44 acres instead of an acre. Not even half.
And then you gotta wonder if you could actually do a proper septic on a half an acre. I don't know. But that's. that's for
Well, I know,
engineers.
you're digging into stuff that we're not responsible for,
No,
so,
Mhm.
planning board could figure that one out.
no, that's not for us. I don't know. I mean, we can grant this and then maybe she has more hoops to run through.
Well-
It's not up for us to try to decide that. You gotta keep that in mind. as a
Well,
board.
in terms of the acre, if it's not
yeah, if it's not an acre,
proper, then
then it,
I wouldn't be comfortable granting anything until we
and
notified the
and,
public
uh,
of what's actually being sought.
she is correct in saying that it's 0.440 of an acre. So it's not 1, it's not even a half acre.
Okay.
What's for commercial building? How much land do you need to build a commercial building on? for it to be there, is it?
Well, I don't know, but what you're asking us to do essentially is to address a specific ordinance in a specific section within the ordinance.
Oh.
And the language in there states for the mixed use, you should be on a minimum lot size of 1 acre.
Yep.
That's what it's saying.
Okay.
With 300 foot of frontage.
Does it say that too?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're changing the use of the property, then that's a whole
Yeah.
thing.
Where'd you see 300 foot of frontage?
Well, it's, on this tax thing here, it says the zone is the, commercial highway.
Oh, so they have 300 feet of frontage, you're
No,
saying?
it says minimum acreage is 1 acre. Minimum footage is 300, but somehow this has 0.440 acres
Yeah, it's professional.
Yeah.
Services.
and does not have,
It's not apartments like
Yeah.
that.
Old people.
I believe if this is right, it says it has 100 feet of road frontage,
Seems-
which we might be able to find a map, yeah, right there. That map is gonna tell you what the frontage is on the bottom here.
There's 100.
Or it's on an arch. Yeah, it's 100 feet. So did the building come with a variance before?
Well, let's see. This goes way back to 1986.
All right, well,
Oh.
what do you guys think?
Yeah, okay, so they got a variance for the 100 feet.
There we go.
Yeah.
How about the minimum lot size?
Oh.
Must have. Oh. Oh,
So,
can I see that?
Say denied?
Yes.
I think we need to postpone this until we
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
What
talk to-
did you find?
I'm sorry, but
Okay, so they
Something was
talk about,
denied and then it happened?
They build it anyway?
but they talk about a rehearing motion.
Looking at stuff that goes back about
And you're like, I wasn't working here then, right?
25 years, neither was I. That's just before my
It's all
time.
Pat's problem on the back there. Pat's
Yeah.
picture. That's why she's watching this.
But the reason why I didn't want you to get started is because I think they might have to ask you to come back. I might have to send you back to Troy and try to work this out. It would be, well, it'd be nice to have an updated drawing of the lot. I don't know if you've got anything.
The map, right?
Or the tax map or something.
Tax map.
Oh,
Go to
oh,
town over here and they'll define the property and just take a picture of it.
Yeah,
oh.
because I think, to be honest with you, on that, the map that we were just looking at, it shows the road,
Curves, yeah.
it curved?
curves there,
Now
and it
it's
may have been
straight.
straightened by then,
Yeah,
by now, and your actual footage might have changed.
Okay.
Because they rate that on a curve. But
So,
is there any literature
Give
there?
you an opportunity to reconsider the 75 to 100%.
Did they
oh,
appeal
that's true
this?
too.
yeah, and then, my, exact,
I would make sure that you can even get your septic
There's another
design
decision.
actually working before
No,
you
it's approved.
go through all the expenses of doing this again.
Or get it professionally examined to see.
Yeah,
whether it
that's
can
what
be
I'm
made to
saying.
work.
So this says
Right, I don't even know if you're gonna have enough land to
that's
put
what
enough
changed
septic
that.
system out there to handle 4
See-
units. or
see,
3
well, I would,
units or whatever.
so, but he used to handle a daycare. This is my point. That daycare center probably had like 20 kids.
I don't
in
know,
there
but I know
somewhere.
I just built the house in town,
To change
and-
the,
you know,
Use of the
they
building.
consider the
Yeah.
kitchen,
so that to
the
me. that
bathrooms, the bedrooms,
Washing
all
the
of that
dryer.
into
makes the current,
their
Yeah, I
leach
think you need
field
to meet the
requirements.
footages.
Yeah.
you know,
So
all
like
the,
a kitchen is
Do you feel
equivalent
like
of 1.5
the
baths, I
decisions
think,
would
or
be
something to
thrown
that effect. So
well,
it starts adding up pretty quick.
well, I don't know.
Because-
We wanted to do an in-law for our
I
place, so we had to
think,
factor all that
I
stuff
think
in.
it is.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah,
they're
yeah.
located
Kitchen,
to,
no.
Well,
So
it's
the
like
septic
trying
was
to,
designed
it's
for it.
like having your house.
So I
that's
just
not-
So,
built
and
the
I-
in-law.
I actually did get in
Tear
touch
it
with the
down and
person
build
who
a
put
new
the
one.
septic in, and I spoke to him in great lengths. So I will go back and ask him, like,
Yeah,
is there even enough room to do it? Because you're
Yeah.
right. If it's not, then I'm wasting my time
Because
here.
he's probably gonna ask you a number of bedrooms, kitchens, bathrooms and stuff, and
Yeah.
he's gonna go, well, based on that, you know, here's what you need. And I'm a little worried about your lot size, to tell you the truth.
So if she were to get the septic figured out and acceptable,
I think this is way
Um,
off now.
and if we get beyond the fact that the square footage may not be, building's there. You can't stop the building from being there already. It's there. So the question is then, could she get a variance for mixed use, commercial, residential as?
Yeah, and I think I agree with Greg to the extent that we're not going to challenge her on a septic design. If it has one or not, that's planning board. But I'm just offering you
Yeah.
some advice. You
Yeah.
may
Good
wanna
good
look into
idea,
it,
yeah.
Make sure it's even worth.
Going forward, right.
Because I think we're gonna we may have to publish a new,
So this one here,
you might have to put some more application fees
this
in.
is
So I can
denied.
publish a new hearing
This
date for
where it's
you. that
approved.
Says we're not just going after the mixed use, but we're
No,
also
this is the
going
same
after
one.
lot size.
400 foot, and this is
You know what I mean?
100 feet.
Yes, you all know.
So
They
that way
gave it a
there,
variance of 400 feet.
That gets
from the
updated.
500 foot.
Okay, what was your name, man?
requirement,
Richard Riley.
which is
Sorry, I
100
didn't put
feet.
my name tags out, but yeah, Riley.
And your title is?
I'm the chairperson of the board, zoning board.
So I think,
So I'll circle back with Troy and let him know that,
Yeah, you're questioning the lot
I
size.
expect you, yeah.
Okay.
Residences out there.
And then I'll find out about the septic. And then
yeah,
Just-
this is one of his first.
currently, the way the property sits, I am allowed, just so I'm clear on it, because I don't understand that language in there so clearly. It says that you're allowed for one person to live there and work, but they need to use it for their business.
It says it's supposed to be subordinate to the business. So yeah, it would mean that unit is in that residence.
So to live and work.
So it's not a residence with a business. It's a business with a residence.
Yeah.
That's like,
Oh, what's?
It means that you get a sign outside that
It means it's
says
primarily a
Joe's
business.
Trucks,
Oh,
and Joe
okay.
happens to live in the building,
Okay.
as opposed
okay.
to this is Joe's house.
Okay, all
without-
right.
You know,
it's like Mel's tee up.
yeah.
We gave him, there's a residence up top there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the primary purpose is the business.
Right.
Yeah.
In that case, you can, for sure.
And I think that's where they make the precedence that the business is in 75% of the unit.
Yeah.
I think if you were gonna go and talk to him now, in my opinion, I think I would go and talk to him about 100% versus
Yeah.
75, because if you go and put a septic system in that covers 75% of the bedrooms that are in the house, and then you turn that into one more unit, you may have to increase
Your septic.
the size again and come back to us and
Yeah,
then go
that's a good
back to
point.
them.
Good point.
I'm
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, I just think it'd be a lot easier too, because if someone's is working there, and then people are living there, they may not be on the same time schedules. And I just, if they've got kids, it's just, I don't see how someone could have a business there with other people living there. So that's why I'm like, it really should probably just do 100%.
that building's really, it's really set up for handicapping now.
Yeah, it
I
is.
mean,
It's a nice building. I mean, you did a nice job on it.
I
but
think you would have a whole lot easier time renting it if you did residential, but
To a residence, she's not-
That's exactly why I'm here, because I don't know, unless something's going to happen in Litchfield that I don't know about.
Business and people
Yeah.
complain about that.
It's N, huh?
yeah.
So you got to look at what is it, 601.00N.
Hold on.
What is it?
It's the resident. So residences are allowed in that zone,
Oh, they are?
but prior to 1989.
Oh,
So you making it a residence is an exception to that.
I don't think it would be an exception to that.
No?
I
Why?
don't think so.
Well, it's a property that's being made into a residence that was basically constructed after 1989. How can I
Yeah, but
help you?
if we address P, there's no reason to
Is
address N.
I think it was,
We
it
addressed
was
T.
constructed before 1989.
Was
Yeah,
it-
but it wasn't
Oh,
deemed
for it.
wasn't a
residential.
residential, right?
If it was deemed, if you got documentation
No,
in
it
here
was
that
deemed
proves it was
commercial.
all residential prior to 1989, then she's all set. But,
No, it was commercial.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But my point is I think by approving P, it doesn't automatically mean, oh, now we got to approve N too. I think it,
By approving, you're right,
Yeah.
if you were to approve P,
well, if she go, no, here's the point. If she goes for four residences, it's no longer P,
oh, now I see what you're saying.
right?
Wait a minute, you lost me.
But it's still for permitted uses.
Yeah, it's still a permitted use.
Right.
Okay.
It's still a variance for permitted
Either
uses.
way,
Yeah.
I think if we stick with one or the other, we're okay.
Yeah.
Stick with P.
Just, you should know these. These are online. Yeah, I think you can get these online, can't you not?
Yeah. Troy usually attaches a copy of it.
It's
I think it might
601
be attached in her.
dot 00 dash N and P are the ones that you want to
And
look at.
NP?
N and P. P is a mixed use,
Okay,
which got you to the 1 unit residential or 3 units residential.
okay,
Well, if you go all residential, it's not that one anymore.
Right.
It's not a mixed use anymore.
okay.
We wouldn't be giving it.
It's
Yeah,
N.
he's
All
got a
right.
point.
And then I think that you're in big trouble then, because you've got to apply all the zoning ordinances that apply to a residence.
Well,
Oh.
I'm not sure though. I mean, the building
That's why-
approval before on a 100-foot frontage, she can't change the frontage at that.
It's already there, right?
It's already there. The board approved it in 1986,
Yeah, but
1987.
then you got lot size and.
There's, I think what I'm hearing is a sit down with Troy is needed again. And you have to express to him that if you were to go with 100%, we're worried that you would no longer be mixed use, which means we're not hearing the
P.
case we thought we were hearing. We're hearing something else. You're basically going to put residential units, it's 100% residential unit in the commercial district, which would mean you're into essentially N, I guess, at that point.
It's an exception to N.
Or in addition to N, yeah.
Okay,
Does she have prohibited uses? 602.
Yeah, I don't see prohibited uses here.
Multiple principal uses, special exceptions, gasoline sales, automobile service repair. So it's not even, so it's just not a permitted use, period, is what it amounts to. Yeah,
residential.
yeah. Independent living, open space, housing development for older persons. That's
We
allowed.
were looking at that too.
That's
but-
allowed.
But that's a professional service, not, you just can't put a lot of elderly people.
Yeah, I don't want that
Right.
liability.
And say,
okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, I know, I was thinking about
Huh?
handicap, special
You
needs
resemble that comment,
apartments,
Troy?
but still, that's a very costly thing to do because they have so many special things that they need and have to be special heights and door openings and so.
This is,
Yeah, I was just trying to see if there's anything else. I don't see anything else in the northern commercial that we could move you to if you go 100% residential. So I think it's still an exception from 601.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's probably no longer going to be P at that point. We could probably just choose to make it N at that point. And yeah, so if you were to leave it at 75%,
Yeah.
the only question is, at that point, I think lot size. If you try to go to 100%, now we're questioning whether it's mixed use anymore. It's no longer misuse, we think, which would put you in essentially still 601, but probably just N at that point.
well,
Oh.
I'll have to try to remember this because I'm sure Troy's going to have questions for
All
me.
right, so I will contact Troy
Yeah, you and me both.
first. Is he usually in early in the morning or just so it's fresh in my mind?
I don't know when they open the
9.
office. Is it 8?
The clerk's office will open at 7 tomorrow morning,
Oh, okay.
but that doesn't mean Troy's in, so.
All right. I'll leave a
Say 8,
message
9.
with him.
so we're not gonna.
So we're not even gonna hear the case, right?
Well, that's what I would suggest.
So we're just gonna postpone hearing it.
Yes.
Well, I'd give her a chance, give you a chance to even look at your other stuff with the septic and so forth too.
So is it appropriate to table this because we're not, or continue it? Or what do you want to do?
I'm willing to continue it at this point. Whatever happens
So-
between now and then.
All right, so if she comes back and she wants to do 75, wants to do this, do you still have questions about it?
Yeah, I think I understand. Troy's gonna have to decide whether, if she's leaving it at 75%, whether the acreage comes into play as well. So lot size, does that come into play? Which I'm assuming it does. Which probably means re-notifying, because we'll have to rewrite the public notice again. And then if she wants to change it, that also requires re-noticing. So it would be a whole new application. I'd give it a whole new case.
So the variances from the past that they already got on the lot do not carry with a new use, right?
Well, that would be a good question to ask.
That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know. It depends on what you're talking about. I
That's-
mean,
That's what I'm concerned with, so if you're contacting the town attorney, ask that, please.
oh, again, but my understanding is if you're talking about something that is grandfathered, as soon as you change the use, that grandfather goes
Goes
away.
away.
That's what, yeah, just to get confirmation about that.
Yeah, because
So you're talking about the
Because
frontage and,
there was a case in there that was denied on the frontage. It was a 500-foot minimum. And the building, after re-hearing, they got a 400-foot variance on the frontage of that building. So it must be because the lot was unique.
Yeah. So what he's saying is if you go to 100%, you may have to deal with some other variances as well.
But I would just wanted to make, if we start with this, you know, I just don't want to, I want to make sure that there's no other little things hiding in there. And the fact that this is kind of changing the use.
so you're saying going from commercial to mixed use.
Would be going from commercial to residential.
Well, 75%,
Multifamily.
is that considered enough of a change? There were all these other residential things.
That's the question to the lawyer, to the
That's
attorney.
what I'm
Yeah.
trying to get him to say.
So if they go to mixed use, it may not be substantial change to, okay.
No, what I'm hearing is if it was 25% mixed use, it'd be okay. But if it's 75% mixed use, you think it's no longer mixed use because it's too hard,
Yeah.
too much.
I mean, 100% is obvious, okay? That's
Right.
the whole story.
I'll bring it up with Troy. He technically,
You know, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
It's not, the ordinance doesn't say percentage anything. It's
Yeah.
one unit may be developed in conjunction with
Okay.
commercial use.
Right. So we're talking
So-
about 3 units instead of 1.
Yeah, it's not percentage.
Right.
Okay.
okay.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, there could be 7,000 units in that building and one of them is residential.
This is a tricky one.
I know, yeah. It is.
Everyone we've had tonight is tricky. We haven't
No,
had
we don't
anything
we don't
remotely
see
like
cases
this.
ever, month to month. We
Like
go,
this.
Oh,
we have
really?
no
It's the
meetings.
first, you guys are, gotta use your brains tonight, huh?
Exactly. Maybe in the next one.
I don't know. I think you got some good questions here. So, I mean, Troy is capable of contacting the attorney just as much as me. And technically, those things need to be resolved so we get a complete application that lists exactly what the applicant seeks.
So if we table it as is until the next meeting,
Yes, that's what I would do it.
But
or she withdraws it and
Well,
resubmits it.
it can be withdrawn at any time.
At a later
I'll just-
date, if
I'll
you-
just
okay, fine.
notify you guys when we get here that it's withdrawn, or
All right.
it won't be on the agenda, that's all.
Okay.
But for now, we table it so it stays a viable case as it's written,
Right.
and we'll see what happens
but if
between now
it
and then.
comes back at 100%, is it now a new
It's a new
case?
case.
Oh, yeah.
Then I redo the whole application.
Sorry.
Yeah, no
Well,
problem.
you've done most of the work anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So I'll make a motion, we table case number 2019-4 for further information from,
To allow the applicant to work with the building department, code officer.
for further information, yeah.
I second.
Third.
We have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Oh, sorry, we couldn't get through it, but
It's all right.
we both learned a little bit from this.
Yeah.
We got a
So-
little more homework to do before we
Maybe
get
it'll
this.
rent by now and then.
Maybe.
So that's being continued to 7:10 as well,
That's what we
right?
hope.
7:10 for now, yeah.
What's that?
That's being continued to till the 7:10 meeting.
The thing it is you'll
July
fall after this guy.
Oh, no.
So you won't be starting at 7 o'clock.
We're
Right
like
when the window
9
starts,
o'clock. All right, I gotta make a note of that.
He's got a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, he did. He had
We'll
a,
do the best to hear it.
yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Next.
Next, this one is easy. I think this is easy.
Hopefully, very straightforward.
We need something straightforward.
Let's drive.
I don't have a copy of my application, but I need it.
No, as
I
long as you
think I
can,
have it. I believe they gave me copies of everything.
This is 03, right?
Correct.
Christine Barnett.
Yes.
So shall I read the variance from Barnett?
Go for it.
Variance from, this is Christine Barnett, 21 Cummings Drive, Litchfield, map 9, lot 94. Applicant seeks the following variance from Article 310, dimensional requirements to permit the construction of a front porch within the 50-foot setback requirement. 310.
so what is she,
Page 5.
you're looking for 46 feet instead of 50?
Basically, yeah. I want to, currently my setback, at least according to this map, is, it says 54 feet plus or minus is what it says on here. And I'm looking to build an 8-foot deep porch.
Okay.
Is that a,
I have a nice little hand drawing there. If you guys want to look at that.
That's the
sounds
same.
like a kind of a wraparound a little bit?
Yeah, it's gonna wrap around a tiny bit.
This is a residential single-family house, right?
Yes,
So and you're on
So
a
frontage is 150.
corner,
corner.
yes.
Oh, it's a corner lot?
It's a
Yeah.
corner lot, yes.
So so you're okay on the Brickyard?
The Brickyard, I'm fine. It looks like about 81.
You got 81 feet. I
currently.
think it
Yeah,
says.
it's just a front setback. And I'm not doing a full wraparound anyway. I would have had to move too many.
You got a chimney in the way?
There's a chimney vent or fireplace vent. My
Right, so what,
vent
two
for my
sides?
leach field was over there. It was too much stuff to deal with, so I stopped it.
So this.
Do you have a garage or is that?
Yes.
Oh, we were gonna do Google Maps.
Got a good Google going.
It's nice for everybody to get a little orientated before we get into this. Did you guys get copies of the written explanations by any chance?
No.
No? I only have one copy, so.
It's okay.
Litchfield. 8, Brickyard, okay.
Yeah, it's corner Cummings and Brickyard.
There you are.
Well, the builder left you a little tough on that one, huh?
Pardon?
Builder left you a little tough on that if you wanted the farmer's porch. Probably gonna move it back a little bit.
So this is a
Yeah.
Garrison or a straight front colonial.
Yeah.
It's a straight front colonial, yep.
2-car garage on the right.
Yep. Kind of begging for a porch.
In the front.
It's a house, is begging for a porch.
I got the same
The
thing.
house for you. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Are you putting a covered porch or just a
Covered. It's gonna be a true farmer's porch.
hip roof, square roof? Hip or oh, there it is. Look at that. Hip roof.
Beautiful.
Oh, nice.
Nice. 8 foot this way.
8-foot deep, yep.
Nice and a little bump out on the end.
Yeah,
So you can
I
walk on
wanted,
back.
I don't like it when they exactly match the width
Yeah,
of the
no, it
house,
makes-
so I just
yeah.
wanted to bump out to give it some character, I guess.
So okay, let me talk my way through it. So you've got how much to the front, to the right of way in the front?
Currently it's 54 feet, plus or
And-
minus.
And you need 50.
I need 50, according to that, it needs to be 50, so I'm basically gonna be extending 4 feet into the setback.
Approved.
Have you addressed all the criteria?
The side setback
Yes,
is
yeah,
not even close.
they're on the application. I mean, most of my answers were largely the same. It's not gonna, the neighbors that I know my neighbors, they're all actually excited
I
for
was
it.
thinking.
Yeah, on this side then, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta get a bush.
So
out of
it's
the way.
actually wrapping around the side away from the garage.
Yes.
Yes.
On the other, it's offsetting the garage. Balance.
Exactly,
Yeah.
be balanced.
And that way you kind of hide the chimney.
Yes, yeah, I hide the ugly stuff on the side.
You'll walk off the back so you have a graceful exit off the end of the porch. Don't have to go off the side.
Looks like you got a few shrubs you're gonna give away, huh?
Yeah, a
Alright.
lot. Actually, most of them, I'm just gonna move somewhere else.
There you
If you're
go.
lucky, those are pretty big.
Yeah, it's not gonna be fun, but I hate killing trees, so.
All right, well, what we need you to do is work through the criteria, which you've already written, so we have to ask you to read it because we've got to get it into the record.
Take that, read it.
Did you get name and all that? Yes. Yeah, okay, good.
She's
All right.
She doesn't have this, so she'd like to.
Yeah, do you want me to take
Oh,
that?
you don't have your own application?
I didn't make a copy.
Well, then,
I'll read it to you.
good, and then I need it back.
All right, this is. Been there, done that? Okay. So number one, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest because the porch is going to greatly improve the appearance of the residence and it's not going to negatively affect any neighboring property. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because the addition, kind of repetitive, but the addition of the porch will not negatively impact any other property or encroach on any other property. Substantial justice is done because the porch will greatly improve the appearance of the home and add quality living space to the home as well. The values of surrounding properties are not diminished because it will improve the appearance and the value of my property, will beautify the neighborhood and possibly even improve the value of surrounding properties. The setback is still going to be 46 feet, so I'm still going to be a substantial distance from the street. Little enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship because there is no other reasonable location for a farmer's porch. Kind of by definition, it's a front porch, so you can't really put a front porch on the back. I already have a back deck. The only other places to put it would be on the side, well, on the garage side, which is pointless, or on the other side where I'd have to move multiple pain in the butt structures to put it there.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
No.
No.
I'm gonna open it up for public input. Do I have any public input? I don't have any public.
Bueller.
Can't get any input from them. So do I have a motion to close public input?
I make a motion to close public input.
You're here.
All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Farmer's porch is a pretty reasonable use.
I'll make
Motion
a,
to, okay, Greg.
I make a motion to grant the variance, variance to Article 310 dimensional requirements to prevent construction of a front porch not to exceed more than 4 feet into the 50-foot setback requirement.
I'll second.
More than 4 feet
Into,
in addition to it, so it's,
so in other words, it's, the setback is now becomes
Okay.
46 feet,
Yep.
right? 4 feet, right? 50 minus 4, right? Yeah.
yep.
And I'll second the motion.
So we have a motion, it's been seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Slam dunk.
So you've got 30 days, I believe you gotta wait before you can actually start your construction because somebody can say we were wrong in our decision. You don't wanna be. in
You run
middle
the
of
risk then of.
Yeah.
Having to tear it
This,
down.
that would be a butter, correct?
Anybody,
Yeah.
anybody in the public can
Anybody
say,
on that television up there can say,
Yeah.
you know what, I don't like. that
Someone who's
porch."
prejudiced against porches?
yeah, something like that. Somebody you might have ticked off on.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do have to hold off on 30 days. Like I said, I'll be submitting a letter, another copy goes in the file. Troy, the selectmen get notified as well, so they should know that you're
I gave
approved
it back.
at some point when you start working with the code officer.
He won't give you a building permit for 30 days anyway.
Is that the way it works? Yeah, they
So
won't
you wouldn't
do
So I have to wait
Yeah.
for 30 days to get a building permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But other than that, I think you're all set, I believe.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
5
Have a
cases.
good night. Four.
4
Yeah,
cases.
well, we pushed 2 of them out.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know if I didn't.
I'm
think-
tired.
I didn't have anything else on the agenda at the moment.
Better not. I didn't take any notes.
I didn't think so. I
Um,
need a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to close.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion,
Second.
meeting's
I
done. Thank you.
Bye.